Hey guys, it's me, Eric, and we're fighting more aliens and spaceships here on Retro Gaming Nerds. Alright guys, so as I've said already, we're battling the forces of evil, aliens of course, in space on starships, star bases, moons, moon bases, etc., etc. ad nauseum, in the classic Bally arcade game, Xenophobe. But however, this time around, instead of being on the Atari 7800, we're playing the version that came out by Sunsoft for the Nintendo Entertainment System right around the same time. Now keep in mind, I personally felt that the NES version was not as good as the Atari 7800 version. Which I know a lot of people are out there going like, but Nintendo was better and stuff. Not necessarily. Nintendo just had the licensing, lawyered up pretty heavily, and people kind of got screwed in the end, back in the retro days. But anyway, guys, I want to play this game. I'm going to go over a few of the differences that I feel that were present and prevalent within this title in comparison. Some of the pros, the cons, etc. And you guys make your decision on which one you thought was better. So, let's get playing. Alright guys, so here we are. Got Nintendo controller in hand, and let's get going. One player. Who do I want to be? Dr. Quack, Mr. Fogg, or Dr. Zordeers or something? Let's be Dr. Quack. Just because I'm having a Howard the Duck moment right now. So I mean, right there you can see the graphics between the ships from the original, from the Atari 7800 version and this one. Actually quite different, and even the Xenophobe logo is different. I'm not big on the way the aliens look in this. I mean, why is he whitish? He shouldn't be white. Dr. Quack has slightly better animation, but not that much better. But I also am not big on the fact that aliens just randomly pop into an area for no real rhyme or reason. There are a few elements that are missing from the Atari 7800 version, which are prevalent here. For example, that little flying cannon thing. Also, what's kind of weird in the Nintendo version is the aliens drop stuff, usually, instead of just it being strewn about throughout the space station. But like I said, the Atari 7800 version, those little orbs that shoot at me, they are missing in the Atari 7800 version, but they are here in this one. Another thing is, earlier on there was a energy field that I couldn't pass through that wasn't in the Atari 7800 version. Also, the little guy at the top of the ceiling shooting grenades down at me. Not in the 7800 version. And he's really annoying. Alright, next up, also I like the controls a little bit better in the Nintendo version. Not by much. Not by much. Again, like I said, there's just a lot of complaints I have with this version. The graphics really aren't any better than those found in the Atari 7800 version here. I think actually, quite to be perfectly honest, it looks washed out in comparison. I mean, overall, the Atari 7800 version just felt so much livelier, so much more colorful in comparison to this version. I mean, even the gun does not have as much detail. There's just a lack of detail that Sunsoft was not able to provide in their version of Xenophobe from Bally Midway back in the day. Now here's the thing, I'm trying to find where to go to get around to certain places, but there's no elevator yet, or at least I haven't seen it. So how do I get to other areas to keep killing Xenos? That's the magic question we all need answered. And again, aliens just randomly appearing out of nowhere. It's really frustrating. I'm at 110 health. I'm about to die here before long, so this gameplay is not going to be for very long, I can promise you. But it's still frustrating to know that this game, it just had so much potential, but it is not a good game. I already died. See? There's no real way to indicate how far into this game you're going to find out what you're doing. There's no elevator, so you don't know if you've got all the aliens on that level and how long you're going to be playing through. The aliens randomly appear at various times throughout the game, and the graphics. We'll get into that here more in a little bit, so just hang tight and let's just turn this thing off. Alright guys, so yes, that is a complete episode of the Nintendo version of Xenophobe. I'd love to sit here and say, okay, we're going to reshoot this and we're going to make a longer episode for you guys and do this and do that. It's not a biasness for Atari 7800 versus Nintendo. I mean, Nintendo has games that blow Atari 7800 out the water. They have arcade versions of games that are far superior, like Galaga and Dig Dug, etc. Xenophobe is just not one of them. Nintendo's version was just lackluster. The graphics are washed out looking. The animations are not really better at all. There's slightly different control styles here, but I do think that the Nintendo versions was a little easier to handle. The look of the Xenos was horrible in this version, I think. It's just not a good game. Sunsoft dropped the ball on this one when they got the ability to do this. Now keep in mind, like I said earlier in this episode, Nintendo had a very strict licensing program back in the 80s when they came to America, where a company could only put out about 2 or so games per year. And they had to go through a quality assurance process that indicated whether or not that game was even good enough to get the Nintendo seal. And if it didn't get that seal, it didn't get released. And on top of that, if a company was putting a game out, they could only put it out on Nintendo. Now companies like Bally Midway would license their games out to different companies to ensure that the game could go here and there and not just on Nintendo. Midway or Bally was to put the games out themselves. That would limit them. And, well, you get this problem. You get 3 or 4 different companies producing the same game. You have 3 or 4 different results. Not always ideal. But it is what it is, folks. The Atari 7800 version at this time in the era it was released, I honestly think the Atari 7800 version was the best. Nintendo came in second. 2600 version was dead last. I do not have experience with any other console versions out there at this time, so we'll just leave the ranking between those 3 at that. Other than that, folks, we're going to be playing some other great games here real soon. For example, you're going to see me playing Star Raiders finally on the Atari 7800 via the my Atari 7800. This game is one of my all-time favorite games. We're going to play it on the easy level so we don't have a long, drawn-out process where I am battling evil aliens. That was a reoccurring theme in the 80s, wasn't it? Anyway, I'm going to be battling evil aliens that look kind of familiar, and you'll see why. With a really interesting control scheme that Atari used for just this game that nobody else used and was never repeated. I don't know why. Until later. Anyways, guys, we're playing more games on classic consoles. I'm Eric, and like always, this is Retro Gaming Nerds.